Go over some of the background, but first I want to get into the new developments with Jesse Trentadue, a former law professor with 30 years experience and trial lawyer practicing primarily in the arena of insurance defense with cases involving personal injury, property damage, civil rights, breach of contract. His brother was tortured and murdered by the FBI. That began to get him to investigate the OKC bombing case, and he has sued in court over and over again to get secret FBI and other government documents. And he's been able to discover and confirm that Elohim City was a government operation with the Southern Poverty Law Center. We've interviewed the former head of HUD, Jane Graham, who was in the building and saw McVeigh and others planting gray sticks of butter with wires, saying they were a telephone company the day before. I mean, it just, the witnesses go on and on. Terrence Yakey, cop of the year that saved all these people. The ATF showed up and said, you know, bandage us up to a doctor in front of him, and they weren't even in the building and lied about it. The list goes on and on. You have high-level FBI agents, and I'll get into that coming up, who said they were in Dallas, but turned out were in Oklahoma City the day before. You've got now sworn affidavits by people involved, like Terry Nichols saying, yes, McVeigh was a government agent. I mean, all of this is happening, but now there's a new report out here, thanks to Trentadue's research and lawsuits, discovering that, indeed, there was a call made to the Alfred P. Murrah building saying don't be there in the days before. And that's why a lot of people weren't in the building that day, like the ATF. And Bob Chapman, an expert, obviously researching this case, riding with a shotgun today. He'll also have some questions or comments. But Jesse Trentadue, kind of recap the saga and the big bombshells, and then let's get into the new one.
Well, I think it all, first of all, Mr. Jones, thank you for having me on again.
You bet.
And it started with the murder of my brother. My brother was picked up for a so-called parole violation in Southern California, sent immediately to Oklahoma City. 2 days later, the federal government said he committed suicide, and they tried to have his body cremated. We fought very hard to get his body returned to us. His throat was cut. They said he'd hanged himself. His throat was cut. His head was smashed open to 3 places. He'd been beaten head to toe, front to back. Even the soles of his feet had been beaten. We never had a motive for why they killed him. And then shortly before he was executed, I get a message from Tim McVeigh that said, when I saw your brother's picture and heard what happened to him, I wanted you to know that he was killed by the FBI. They mistook him for Richard Lee Guthrie. And Guthrie was the person I believe is John Doe 2. Guthrie, about a year after my brother's murder, ended up supposedly hanging himself while in the custody of the FBI. And we had a witness to my brother's murder, and a month before we went to trial, they found him hanging in his cell while under federal custody. But to cut to the core of it, that apparently my brother matched Richard Lee Guthrie in the description that the FBI was circulating for John Doe 2. It was a white male, 5'9", powerful upper body build, dark complected, believed to be in Canada or Mexico, driving 1986 Chevrolet pickup truck, and a dragon tattoo on his left forearm. My brother came, that was a perfect match for my brother. He was coming back across the border in San Diego, been down into Mexico. He was driving his friend's 1986 Chevrolet pickup truck. He was 5'9", powerful upper body build, dark complected, dragon tattoo left forearm. Stopped, arrested, sent to Oklahoma, and dead 2 days later. But once I knew that, I started to try to find some link between Guthrie, he even looked like my brother, and the Oklahoma City bombing. And I didn't start out to solve the Oklahoma City bombing. I started out to find out who killed my brother and why. But everything I did took me to Oklahoma City and the bombing. And fortunately that I've been able
do me a favor, Jesse. Talk right into your telephone for us.
I am, yes.
Yeah, just speak up for us because some of it's trailing off. Please continue.
Well, I started to sue the government under the Freedom of Information Act to get records. And among the first records I got were a series of teletypes from FBI Director Louis Freeh to FBI offices in Oklahoma and around certain locations around the country, talking about McVeigh had called Elohim City 2 days before the bombing and had asked for more help. And an informant had intercepted that call and warned the FBI and advised the FBI. I had documents that showed that a government informant had actually gone to Oklahoma City with McVeigh and scouted the target 4 months before the bombing. And I sued for records involving the CIA. And the CIA shouldn't be involved in the Oklahoma City bombing case because it is a foreign intelligence service, and it's illegal for it to be operating in the United States. And for the first time, they came back, and the CIA claimed national security. They said it would be a grave threat to the national security of the United States if they released the records. And that's one of the exemptions the government has, that they don't have to turn over anything, is if it would jeopardize national security. But I'm thinking, what in the world is the CIA doing looking at this white supremacist camp in Oklahoma City?
All right, now let's go through some of what you've discovered since then. It's been confirmed, even major newspapers like the LA Times have reported that more than 14 videotapes from different buildings were all confiscated. When people sued to get them, yourself included, they claimed that all the tapes were being changed at the same time at the YMCA, at banks, savings and loans. I mean, if you believe that, I got a bridge I'll sell you. Also, former FBI Task Force Director Danny Coulson had claimed he was in Dallas on April 19th, 95 and flew up there, but there was no record of that. Then we have the hotel receipt of him at the Marriott the day before being in Oklahoma City. You add that to the fray. You've got all these documents you've sued and gotten. As best you can tell from your research and this new information you're about to cover, what really happened at Oklahoma City?
Well, I think it's now apparent that it was some kind of government operation. Whether McVeigh was actually working for the government originally and then went rogue on them, or whether it was planned all along, I don't know. But the FBI had at least 4 or 5 informants involved with this operation. They knew in advance it was going to happen. And once it happened, they did everything in the world they could to cover it up. I'm trying to think of some of the more crucial things that have involved.
Well, I mean, there's just so much evidence. It's totally ridiculous. And now we see all these Obama advisors saying they need another Oklahoma City because it'll help Obama like it did Clinton. And even Glenn Beck has come out and said he believes they're preparing a new Oklahoma City to be blamed on the Liberty Movement. Were you aware of him saying that 2 months ago?
I was not aware of that, but I want to go back. You mentioned a very important thing. I sued to get the surveillance tapes from around on the Murrah building. The surveillance cameras actually on the building that was destroyed, and the surveillance cameras tapes from the roads leading up to the building. I get all the tapes except the one for the Murrah building, but the tapes they give me go blank at various times between 8:54 and 9:02 when the bomb went off. So I have 6 or 7 different buildings where when a vehicle would be passing, specifically the bomb truck with the Ryder truck, the tape goes blank. And further up the road, a little later, that tape goes blank. So in essence, 26 tapes that I received go blank at various times between 8:54 and 9:02 on April 19th, 1995. And the government of the United States says, well, that's because the tapes were being changed.
So it's savings and loans and YMCAs and businesses everywhere. They're magically being changed in that 2-minute period.
That's basically what they said. But more importantly, they don't give me the tapes from the Murrah building. And I had been leaked the Secret Service timeline that said surveillance cameras showed the bomb detonating 3 minutes and 6 seconds after the suspect exited the vehicle. Now, that was the Murrah building camera tapes. I've sued to get those. No one has ever seen those outside of the FBI, to my knowledge.
And an FBI agent told the Washington Times and LA Times he's seen them, and it shows McVeigh with other people.
Yes. And the government, the FBI specifically says they can't find. Now, the most important evidence, you would think, that would have been Exhibit 1 in the prosecution of Tim McVeigh. A tape showing him coming up to driving the truck up to the building, setting the timer, getting out of the truck, walking away, and the bomb going off. They didn't use that tape. And the reason they didn't use it is because it has other people getting out of that truck, one or more of whom was probably an informant.
Which is what all the witnesses said anyways, but they're telling us to forget about that. I want to get into the new information here in a moment, but I wanted to bring Bob Chapman in, who's followed this closely, guest hosting with us in this hour. Bob, what's your comments on what you're hearing? Any questions for Jesse Trentadue?
I think it's pretty cut and dried what they've done. And it's been my opinion that the thing was set up by the United States government, and McVeigh was a key member working with the government on this project. I would parallel it with 9/11.
And they burned him. They burned their own guy like they always do, like Lee Harvey Oswald.
That's right. And it's just like when the governments take over from another government, the first thing they do is get rid of the people who put them into power because they're too dangerous. But it's pretty obvious now from what this gentleman is telling us and what we know from before that the United States government did perform this operation. And sooner or later, just like 9/11, everything will come out. And hopefully these people think that they'll outlast it, and they'll die before it's discovered in total of what they've done.
Just like Northwoods, just like Tonkin, just like Operation Ajax or Operation Gladio. If our criminal government would blow up school buses and trains in Italy in 1981 to blame their political enemies, would they do it here? I mean, that's a no-brainer, and they've been caught with their pants down. Now, the new stuff you've gotten in the last few years via lawsuits is depositions with Terry Nichols, confirming what others said. McVeigh was a government agent. He's videotaped at a base a year after he's out of the military, at a demolitions base. You've got the Ryder truck being loaded at Camp Grouper. You've got the Southern Poverty Law Center FBI running Elohim City, the command base. And you've got where you've sued and gotten different documents where they black it out. Then you're able to get it the same document, other areas blacked out, put it together. But tell folks about the new information dealing with the phone call warning that all the witnesses reported on hearing about. That's why the building was more than half empty, but it wasn't empty at that daycare center. They made sure they picked something so we could see some bloody dead kids on TV so they could demonize the states' rights movement.
Well, what happened is I sued the FBI to get, or under the Freedom of Information Act request, records of the evidence found in Terry Nichols' home in Kansas. In about 2005, the FBI went to the former home of Terry Nichols in Harrington, Kansas, went into the basement in a crawl space, and found a box of explosives. And I wanted those box of explosives because I had interviewed Nichols, and he told me the information about those explosives, that the fingerprints of the FBI informant who gave Nichols and McVeigh the detonators for the bomb.
Speak up. I'm sorry. Speak up, sir. This is too important.
Nichols had told me during an interview, private interview, that on that box of explosives would be the fingerprints of the FBI informant who gave him the detonators. And this box contained some more detonators that were used, part of which were used in the bomb. Nichols had originally tried to get this information out through Homeland Security because he wanted Homeland Security to do the fingerprint check and announce the names of the people's prints found on that box. The FBI found out about it and raided the home and got the box. But before they did that, back when McVeigh was standing trial in Oklahoma City for murder, an FBI, I guess, agent or operative, for lack of a better word, approached Nichols and his defense team and said, "We will promise you will not be executed if you will agree to three things." And Nichols says, "Well, how can you guarantee that I won't be convicted and executed?" And they said, "We will not cooperate with the state of Oklahoma. We will not give them witnesses. We will not give them evidence. Then they won't be able to prosecute you." Nichols says, "What do I have to do?" The first thing they said to him is, "You have to take credit for a phone call that was made to us the day before the bombing, warning about the bomb." And Nichols told me, he said, "I never made that call. I didn't even know about that call. And I told him I didn't." Now, what that tells me is there's a record of a phone call to the FBI warning them about the bombing, probably from one of their informants with McVeigh. And they can't get rid of that record. So they needed to establish someone to take responsibility for it. Nichols says, what's the second thing? And they said, well, we want you to implicate your brother in the bomb. And Nichols says, I won't do that because he wasn't involved. Nichols says, what's the third thing? And they said, where is the box of explosives you took from the home of Roger Moore in Arkansas? And no one would have known about that box of explosives other than being buried in that crawl space, or the fact that it existed, other than Nichols and an FBI informant who was aware of it. And Nichols thought they wanted evidence against Roger Moore, and this is what he's told me, that's in the court records. And he said, well, I'll give you Mr. Moore. And they said, no, that's not what we want. We want that box of explosives. And what these documents I received confirm is that meeting took place, those offers were made, the FBI later learns of the existence of that box of explosives in Nichols' former home, gets there ahead of Homeland Security and other law enforcement, takes the box, destroys the blasting caps and detonators so that they couldn't be anyway linked to what may have been used in the bombing. But they do fingerprint analysis of the box. And it turns out that McVeigh's prints are on the box, Nichols' prints are on the box, and fingerprints from two other individuals they will not identify were on the box of explosives.
And McVeigh told, and he fits the MO of this, Nichols and others, and sworn affidavits now, that he was part of a black op team, basically infiltrating militias, counterterrorism, but then it shifted to they were going to do some type of drill bomb or test, and then they just basically went and then set McVeigh up, which is what they classically do, correct?
It has all the earmarks of having been a government operation, or it's not an operation, but certainly one they knew about and were on top of it almost from the beginning.
And then months later, Terrence Yakey, Cop of the Year, is being followed, calls his partner, says, I've been followed by the FBI. Then he's found in a field, tortured to death. And, of course, I mean, this is who you work for, government. This is what America is. Cop-killing scum. We'll be right back. Hey, what's your pension funds? Yeah, if you believe that McVeigh and Terry Nichols carried out that bombing, I got some oceanfront property in Arizona and from my front porch.
If you leave me,
you can see the sea.
I won't miss you, and I won't ever take you back. Girl, your memory.
We'll be back live this Sunday, 4 to 6 p.m. Bob Chapman of the InternationalForecaster.com's our guest. Jesse Trentadue, a lawyer whose brother was brutally tortured and murdered by the FBI in custody in his jail cell, joins us. Bob, you've been hearing this new incredible information, and there it is hanging out in plain view. I mean, if we don't expose these government-sponsored terror events, they're going to continue to stage them, aren't they?
They certainly are, and whether we deter them remains to be seen. It's reflected in what you talk about and I talk about as far as the arrogance and the transparency of all of the things that they're doing all of the time, ranging from Wall Street to black op events. And I think that, you know, the history of the OSS and then the CIA, and in these latter years in the FBI, latter years being perhaps since 1970, the whole spectrum of agencies within government has changed tremendously. I think Iran-Contra taught us that. And, you know, everybody gets away with everything, and the people who have to be eliminated, and the public doesn't want to know.
So why not take all the veterans' death benefits? Why not steal the pensions? Why not bankrupt the country? Why not have the TSA stick their hands down our pants? Why not have telescreens saying spy on your neighbor? I mean, once you give in to evil, we've had 51 million abortions. Why not have 100 million? It's just sky's the limit, folks. None of us are safe. None of our children, nothing. This must be met head on. Jesse Trentadue, in closing, any other key points you want to add about the investigation and where all this is going and justice for your murdered brother and the other 160-plus people they slaughtered at Oklahoma City?
This question, and it has troubled me all this time. Clearly the government knew. Clearly the government was involved. I don't know whether they intended to stop it and it got away, or they planned it. And I don't know. But they knew it was going to happen. They assisted. I don't know if the plan was to stop it with cameras running and become heroes and regain some respect from the American people, or if they actually intended to kill them.
Well, we know they killed your brother and Terrence Yakey and a bunch of other medical people that saw the truth. I mean, you know, we know that, I mean, there's no doubt they carried the whole stinking thing out to blame it on the American people. It wasn't to be heroes.
Well, they certainly killed the people after the fact to cover it up. But before the fact, they were responsible, whether they intended it or not.
Yeah, well, we just got to belly up here to these people and just say, here we are. We want our country back, and, you know, we want this New World Order to stop, and we're not afraid. We're committed. We're V2, you know that term for pilots. Point of no return, when there's not enough runway to stop, they got to try to take off. We're all V2, America, and the rest of the world. We got to go all the way. What do you say to that, Jesse Trinidad?
Oh, we can't drop this one. This is too important. We'll never have a country if they get away with this, because they'll just encourage them to do more.
Well, hey, we're getting further every day, and in the court of public opinion, people now know about false flag terror. And gentlemen, God bless you both. Bob Chapman, Jesse Trinidad. We'll talk to you both more in the future as these things unfold. And Bob, I'll see you, Lord willing, next Friday live.
You got it.
Thank you, Jesse.
Thank you, sir.